Welcome back, everyone, to part number 2 of this session 0 of the Burning Wheel Patronage, or Patronage. We'll decide which one we're going to use one day.
Patronage.
Drip.
Patronus.
No.
I'm an Australian, Dave. I can say things however the fuck I like.
Okay, so we were talking about magic.
Yes.
And what I've done is I've just written down all of the types of magic that I can remember. And I'm just gonna read them off and cross them out. So sorcery is a definite no for me.
Yep.
I'm not interested in wizards with spell lists and all of that.
No.
Blood magic I don't think has a place. Death arts I don't think has a place.
No.
Oh, it's got art in it though.
It does.
You mean, look,
no.
art can be a giant, hideous corpse monster. That can be art.
Yeah. Faith is a question mark.
Yeah.
I kind of like faith.
Yeah.
Same.
And that's a definite thing that can inspire art. Like people actually performing miracles and be like, "Hey, I performed this miracle. You should paint a picture of it."
Okay,
And
and
I've walked around enough Renaissance art galleries that are filled
Yes.
with pictures of Jesus on the
Yeah.
walls and stuff. But
if you commission enough pieces of a significant event within your canon, then does it really matter whether the miracle happened or not? You've paid enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ostensibly did. So that's cool.
This is. I mean, this ties into my favorite. I like my favorite conspiracy theory. I'm not sure if you all are familiar with the phantom time hypothesis, which states that in about the year 600 or something, there's a pope that goes, man, it will be really great for whoever's pope in the year 1000, because it's just going to be, wow, 1,000 years of Christendom, amazing. And then 400 years go by in which not a lot really happens except for this one guy, Charlemagne, who's amazing, and no one really talks to Europe for 400 years, and then suddenly a pope with a weirdly similar name is like, wow, it is really great to be the pope in the year 1000. And all of the records during that time are written by the church.
okay.
Yeah, I've heard this
love
one.
I
love
feel
it.
like I've heard reference to it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's
Charlemagne was pretty great though.
If you look at if you look at all the writing of him, it does just seem like someone's OC though, right?
historical OCs. This is
Okay.
magnificent.
Okay.
But
so,
yeah, it plays into that thing of like you can invent history and you can and miracles can have happened if you just made enough art of them, right?
Mhm.
Like
Just pay a playwright to make enough plays, historical plays about events that totally happened, and then use that as sort of history books.
yeah, Skeva in chat says Socrates was totally Plato's OC.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh yeah, he existed and had all these really clever arguments.
So folklore.
Which
I
ones?
think maybe
Nah.
folklore used to work and it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah,
I
like-
don't
like-
know enough about folklore to have a.
Folklore is
go.
go to page 364 in the codex, everyone.
Folklore is throwing beans at zombies.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is it.
It's such a good
Oh,
picture.
I mean, I
There it is. There's the.
This is amazing. I mean, folklore might be a thing, but I don't think it's a thing where we are.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's just not a thing in the story we're telling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big question is art magic.
No.
Yeah.
I think art is magic on its own by being art.
Yeah. Okay, that's a really good point. And then the last one, which I think is sort of the biggest question mark, is enchanting.
I'm down with that because it's very defined, delineated, and also fits in my head with. Sorry, the Renaissance could still have happened if this was a thing that people are just now discovering exists at the same time as other sciences are in their infancy, finding the fundamental aspects of things, breaking them down and utilizing them in interesting ways seems congruous with the setting as we've described.
I was going to say, I'm interested in there being an alchemical thing going on in the background,
so
right? Of people being like, oh yes, the humors or whatever, right? Like the...
and not just because like I'm interested in alchemy, and not just because I'm writing a book about an alchemist, but
that advertisement though.
Yeah. I'm writing a book, by the way.
You can read the first few chapters at patreon.com/ I don't know the actual suffix.
It's /AshleyNova. It's real simple.
There we go. Ding.
But yeah, I think this is the right like time period for like the beginnings of alchemy and that starting to be a thing.
I'm down for that.
Yeah, definitely not like an established. You can't like pop down to the alchemist shop. But there's maybe one guy that's maybe been playing with like Quicksilver too much.
Yeah, you can pop down to the apothecary, except there is one apothecary who actually does this, and everyone else is just like not noticed because the difference is so small.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that there isn't a college of alchemists. There is one alchemist in the plaza, who is like someone puts out their sculpture, someone puts out like a little play. This person like drags out a weird thing, throws a bottle into it, and it produces like a weird, like golden rose, or explodes. More often it explodes, but the days it works are really cool.
So I think the sort of enchanting alchemy space is something that we can play into and lets us bring a little bit of sort of magical fantasy stuff into the game without falling into wizards and things.
I think we get that faintly like it's beginning to edge into the space of miracles, which the church and faith had a stranglehold on, which puts us in conflict with them.
Yeah. And then so the ones I forgot to write down are summoning and spirit binding. But I don't think
I think definitely not summoning.
Summoning, or do you want an intrigue game at the beginning? Yes, absolutely. And then I ruin it for everyone.
And
I could do it if you want, but
I think we're okay. No Angels of Winter, please.
How can I fuck the setting in one test?
Yeah.
Let's create some fascinating drama.
And I think there's definitely an interesting space with enchanting of someone who's a really bad painter but a really good enchanter and just enchants their paintings so everyone thinks they're really good.
Oh my god, they're a photographer. Dip a paintbrush, put it against the canvas and look at something till the paint makes the right shapes.
Yeah.
That would be so cool. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm down for this. So there is faith and there is enchanting, and that's the only magic. And maybe some other stuff happens a long way away, but we're not.
So I will have a good read of the enchanting rules and the alchemy rules and see how they work.
And
myself.
Just to head it off a little bit, I know Ashley mentioned to me she hadn't read the Dwarven stuff. They do have some magic-y type skills. I'm not planning on using them, and I don't think it's going to impact anything very heavily. If it does end up being, I'm totally happy to just cut those skills.
Yeah.
I've only done a little bit of reading on it as well, because like I say, I just had the idea earlier today.
Yeah. There's some like rune crafting.
Yeah, and
Stuff.
my character doesn't even know that. So.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So we're not using sorcery, so these questions don't matter. Yeah. So do we've talked about sort of the religion broadly, I think, in terms of real world Catholicism.
Yeah, we said Pope a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feels fine to me.
But yeah, I definitely like the idea of like a Reformation or something being in the background of the setting, and we can see maybe the religion is changing.
I think on the subject of religion, though, I think I'm also a little. I haven't fleshed this out fully in my brain yet, but that, like, I know at least around the theatre, like, there's a lot of like superstition, like the Scottish play, that like people have a lot of like.
See, that's where we can go back to like folklore.
Yeah, and
right.
Just like is that there's a sort of mini pantheon and there's a god of drama? Is that there's just people just think
that was the question I was gonna ask is we're talking about this sort of big monotheistic religion. Is God real?
I mean,
or is faith just something people who believe hard enough can do?
Right. I don't.
It's tricky because while I think that's a very interesting question, I think Burning Wheel does say yes if you're using faith, because you do entreat, you request the miracles of someone else. It does have to be a thing that exists to you.
Yeah.
It's a valid question if we're not in the church to be like, is that even legit? Like, is there a God?
If none of us have faith, we can sort of like say, are they magical, or is it because they're standing at the front of a room full of 80 people and the combined will of 80 people is leverage on the universe?
If we're like leaning into, I like the idea of a monotheism with saints as like a thing. The question that I think that is important then is there a baby Jesus, right? Like was there a Messiah in our setting, or is it just there's a God? Yeah.
Do we have a biblical event like the crucifixion that is in a whole bunch of the great Master's heart?
That's the question, because it comes into the way that we depict things.
Right. And as again we touched on at the beginning, talking about patronage and where the money for commissioning things comes from, having this particular narrative, having the specific events to be depicted, is a large part of why the patronage of the church was so instrumental to growing
I don't have a problem with being in a world with dwarves and magic and a baby Jesus, like if that because that sets, because we as Western players, we understand that narrative, we understand what it looks like, it's what we'll fall back to. But it doesn't have to be like the baby Jesus specifically, right? Like
you
wanna, like,
there was
as long as we have an understanding of a narrative that is being depicted that is like religiously important.
I have a follow-up question. Is this is this like there was a grand time in the ages past where all the cultures lived as one and there was a messiah figure, or is this like the religion of this sort of group of mannish city-states, or is this like the religion of man and the dwarves have different understandings of gods and stuff? Like, Is this human Jesus? Is this Italian Jesus? Is this everyone's Jesus?
Yeah, Jesus was a human.
He definitely was.
Jesus was a lich.
Wait, what's his the phylactery?
Wait, no, was it
Wait, his phylactery is dispersed through everyone because they all eat his body.
Oh my god.
So in order to kill him, you have to kill everyone.
everyone who's ever been christened?
Yes.
It's rough.
Gee, I mean, yeah. Look, if you're gonna be a lich, you gotta make
Gotta
plans.
go big. Go big or go home.
Yeah.
I was gonna say go let you go home.
Yeah. I guess that's a really it's.
I'm liking the idea that okay. No, we can't do that because that's really racially insensitive. I was gonna say like the thing of because like Tolkien dwarves are modeled after Jews, right? Like that's a thing, and
Yes.
so so my brain's like, yeah, obviously like humans have the same religion but with a different interpretation, right? Like the Abrahamic divergence
Yeah.
could be a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm interested in like answering that question quite specifically because if we have a dwarven character who is a bit of a fish out of water, that like this religion that we're all like.
I think the dwarves are not part of the church.
No,
Okay. No, I don't think they're part of the church.
Yeah.
I think it has to be different, especially if we say elves exist, because elves kind of
predate God.
Break. Yeah, I was gonna say elves break God.
they kind of do it. I wasn't sure how to phrase that because it seems like we're on the same wavelength, but they all occupy the same space for people.
Elves beat God. God beats sadness. Sadness beats elves. The rock, paper, scissors of theology.
Okay, but now I'm like picturing like an angel of sadness in the position of like, you know, Lucifer, but instead of being like, oh, I'm evil, it's just, oh, I'm really sad.
Your job is to fuck up the elves for Christendom.
But yeah, I'm interested in having a like different interpretation of the same narratological events, narrative event. Dave?
Yeah. So Naren's just said in chat, like, could this be like an ascended, like deity, like religion, like so we have like our Messiah character, in the narrative, but there wasn't a god before then, like that person became God.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
Idea.
I like that.
Because then there's you've got like the whole idea of doing like the art of the Ascension.
Yeah, I like that. I also like the idea of it being like of there being elemental forces that, you know, this figure like, you know, becomes God and therefore has like power over, whereas like the elemental forces are what is being worshipped religiously by dwarves and elves.
Yeah, because what's really interesting mechanically here, talking about the Ascension, is specifically a human who in some way or respect has shade shifted up to white, which is a thing.
Yeah.
That
They hit
exists
Faith
for
10
dwarves.
and they ascended out of the game, out of being a PC.
Like mechanically it's a thing that can happen, and for other cultures like elves that exist, it's not outside of the realms of possibility for them to just get through life and become a white shaded whatever.
Yeah.
So it all like fits together really nicely.
I really like this.
I really
I like
like
it.
that. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
So, God of the Ascended Man.
Yep. I'm definitely digging somewhere an ascended, but like that thing of kind of the Buddha thing of like, yes, but it like I ascended through suffering or something like that, right? Like
Yeah, well, there's probably a bunch of different interpretations of it. Like there are people in the church who believe that God ascended through battle, and there are people who believe God ascended through tranquility. And
is that the source of our Reformation? I think that there's been a dominant narrative of
yeah,
how
maybe
they ascended from humanity to godhood, and that is being questioned in the wake of like advanced technology and all that jazz.
Yep. Cool. Love it.
I heard that he was never a human to begin with. He was always an elf. He just came here. And it's elves coming in and co-opting our culture.
My favorite human ascending to God story is the Pathfinder god. I forget, Kalen.
Killane.
Of like you have
so
like
good.
The ones who there's like the Starstone in the middle of the big magic city that if you can get through the huge randomly generated maze, randomly generated dungeon that is in fiction a randomly generated dungeon, every time you go in it, you get to become a god. First person goes in there, does some heroic stuff, dies. His follower goes in there, becomes a god to take his place. This guy gets hammered in a bar next to it and does it on a dare and wakes up the next morning a god and has no idea how he made it through. I was just like, yes. I became a god by getting drunk.
Yes.
It's wonderful. I love it.
Just gonna delete some of these questions because they're not relevant.
Cool.
Yeah, so we've talked about stocks. We'll talk about cultural traits and stuff off stream. I think we'll try and hammer out.
We'll see if we get there.
So let me write down. We'll need. Do we want to? I think Finbar, you mentioned earlier, like we could do cultural traits, by like classes. So like the lower class and the middle class and like the nobles have different cultural traits. Or we could do it. Like people from this city state have certain cultural traits. Some people from other city states have other cultural traits.
Yeah. I think. I feel like with the game we're talking about at the moment, it all being very localized into one district, it makes more sense to start with that. That sort of like.
Yeah, the more local.
The noble class, the merchant class, the lower class, the working class, however we name them in the end.
Yeah.
And then we can, as we start to introduce more characters, we can branch out into what like, if this is Florence analog, what is a Venetian analog?
Yeah, and that really makes sense from a real world perspective. Like you know that the people in your town, you know all the different like groups of people, but the people from like 6 towns over, you know that this is just generally what they're like. And so even though we might have like different classes of people coming from a far away city, our characters only have a certain perspective to interact with them through that.
Yep, that is super legit. That's really smart.
A suggestion from chat is culture traits based on the district of the city a character grows up in. Which I could see is related.
That's really cool. I do like that. The other question I had was like if we like there's this thing where like whenever we talk about like class cultural traits, we as Westerners tend to fall into the like upper, middle, lower like pattern. That's the pattern that we're familiar with. But there are like, for instance, we can look at other class systems as well. If we wanted to, like, oh, there's a warrior class, you know, in like they're like that are specifically that, like in the like Indian caste system and things like that, right? Like they're even more delineated.
Yeah,
if we wanted to.
With the stuff we've been discussing, like a nobility class, a merchant class, a kind of church, almost like, and then like a sort of commoner class, kind of almost, and criminal maybe, sort of makes some sense of like those are the big groups we're discussing. But I'm not sure. The district idea, while I like it, does require us to map a city now rather than do it as kind of we go.
Yeah.
There's a lot of upfront work.
I
to be...
I quite like the idea of combining those two things, and as we zoom out, as we get people coming in, adding in traits about whether it's someone from a specific district, whether it's someone coming from a different city state, and just kind of having a bit of a commentary on the way in which people have that perspective. And
like within London, people have opinions on if you're north of the river or south of the river. Like we have
those. I think that's quite cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I have opinions about people north of the city. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know enough about your city to know what that means.
Exactly. That's why I can say it.
Okay. Alrighty. So let's I think return to that one after we're a bit deeper in, because we get a better idea once we have like characters made of the kind of society we have, I guess.
So we talked about the resource cycle being seasonal. In terms of like sort of the rest of this sort of fairly long question of what's the currency and who collects taxes and things, I think that's the kind of stuff that we can answer in play.
Yeah.
More.
I think so.
I imagine. I imagine the city has a mint and mints its own coins.
Yeah.
We're
talking about city states. Yep.
But beyond that, I don't know. I don't know if we want to think too hard about that question. Sort of.
I'm not an economist.
Yeah, like money is going to be important to the game, but I feel like it's something that we can.
Yeah, like I think we start with our city's money, and the introduction of another city-state's money is a thing we want to do in play, not as like that's a thing one of us is doing to subvert something.
Like that's a really big deal. Like going out and bringing in a bunch of foreign money for something. Yeah,
that's also going to be a source of conflict with powerful rich people who live in our city who are like, no, don't work with the foreigners. That's not how we do things. You're art. Cool.
And so the last thing here is just sort of about like material possessions. We sort of talked about sort of weapons and armor being like contemporary with the time period that we're looking at, so less knights in armor and more duelists, and so the guards are going to be of the time period would be like a breastplate at the most, and then like a pike, like a polearm is going to be the weapon of choice for most people, and a rapier if you just want something to carry around normally.
Fancy mercenaries might have some pistols.
Like we're right at the start of gunpowder.
Yeah, so we're looking at like matchlock.
Gunpowder is 100% a result of enchanting.
Yep, I was gonna say enchanting or dwarves.
Yes,
one of those two things.
Yeah, either
coming in. That's totally cool.
Or maybe like the mechanism might be from one.
The mechanism is dwarven, and the alchemical is enchantment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
no one else can make like precision pistols, but they were like, we don't really know what this is useful for.
Yeah,
and then a person's workshop blew up. And they were like, oh,
I like the idea that dwarves the idea of a rifle is only a dwarf could make a rifle, right? Like with rifling.
Yeah.
That seems good to me. I really want to look up. I've written a note in my book. I want to look up what different ships looked like at the time period, because I think we're getting into sort of big square sailed ships. and we're not
Yeah.
in sort of the triangle, like very fast ships yet.
Far from my
Like Columbus is
Yeah,
is
yeah.
the ship that I'm the ships that I'm picturing in my head.
Yeah,
at the
there's totally a
moment.
thing like somewhere else in another part of the world where someone's like, I'm sure we can reach the elves if we go around the world that is a tube shape.
Oh god.
Yeah.
There's some people patronize artists, other people patronize explorers who
Yeah.
go off and do.
Yeah, I mean that is a really good question. Is there a quote unquote new world that exists?
I don't think we know yet. No one's come back.
No one's come back
Yeah.
yet. Yeah, okay.
That's when we get to do magic as well.
Well,
You'd be like, yeah, it was actually the whole time. The elves just hid it with magic.
Yeah.
As-
Just go around it.
as is the thing with the new world, no one from our culture has made it back yet, but we're
Yes.
ignoring everyone else who has,
Mhm.
because that is
Oh,
important
yeah,
for the
obviously.
narrative.
Yep.
Cool. Shall we make
Yeah.
things?
Shall we make characters?
Ooh. I like this plan.
I like making stuff. I have books.
Yeah. I need to
I
make
have-
y'all character sheets, don't I?
Yes, that would be very.
That'd be very handy.
This
let
is
me-
not a
let me
system
make
I can do
some-
in my head, Ashley.
So
I might be able to make a Dungeons and Dragons character in 5 minutes while the stream I'm playing that character in is going, while I'm actually role playing them, because that level 1 D&D character is pretty straightforward as long as you don't make it.
When I do when I'm writing games now, I'm always like trying to write games that I can play without having to have a sheet in front of me, because I'm like, oh, I don't want to have to look at a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't the game for that.
No, it's not.
not so much. Okay.
Just in terms of personal preference for you three and how y'all like to play in Roll20, do you want to be able to see each other's character sheets? Is that a thing that I feel like for this it's a very good idea to be able to see each other's?
Yeah, I think
Sheets.
being able to see the character sheets is
Yeah.
good. So in which case if we want to be able to see each other's sheets, we need editing access to them. Because you can't see the character sheet tab without the editing access.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
But yeah,
Yeah.
but also the thing where
Faith in y'all not to mess with my stuff.
yeah,
So I'll just
But
put
also, like-
these as all players, and
as long as we're not doing the thing where everyone's the GM, because that makes me rage. I'm like,
yeah, no, that is not a thing I even know how to turn on. So
Because you're gonna have a billion other character sheets.
yeah.
Ashley.
Yes.
Just
I'm
random
being
stuff.
told that
That's
we
the-
need to look at page 104.
yeah, I'm also looking at this.
Why are we looking at page 104?
Oh, setting the power level and stuff. Yeah. talking
Right,
about
yes.
paths.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so life paths, I was thinking like 4 is kind of the standard, and I think you can get to most of the like interesting for this setting life paths with 4 quite easily.
I'm pretty happy with 4.
The only reason I have seen games or played in games that go above 4 is a cool idea that you just can't
Yeah.
smush. Generally, I'm okay if one of you wants to play a 5 path character because it's really compelling to have done this, but it
Yeah.
means you have to add more.
I am quite interested in playing someone who is relatively new to.
Yeah, like
I your concept you mentioned before, Ash, sound like maybe your character might be a little more experienced because they're a little more jaded about their experience.
yeah, I'm trying to work out
If you're
because I can get to where I want to be in 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
One question I will ask. I don't have an intention doing this, but do we want to allow shade shifting at the start, or do we want to just?
I don't think we need shade shifting.
Cool.
Well,
That's fine. I
Yeah.
didn't have an intention of doing it, but like, I think we should mention.
I don't I don't know how common it is for dwarves to shade shift. Is all I would
Yeah.
say.
Fair.
Because I've not read it hugely in depth. And
Okay.
as the last time, I will ask. It will necessarily mean some of my base stats are a bit higher than yours. Is that okay with them?
Yeah, yeah. Like this isn't a game where everyone needs to be as balanced as.
I'm not like overly invested in the idea of like a balanced party where we all have to have equivalent
Yes.
I'm kind of interested in you being exceptional, because then I get to go to you and be like, hey, can you make this mad idea I have for a set work?
Yeah, and I have, as part of this core concept, alienated myself from most of
some of the
things about being a dwarf.
yeah.
There's a very specific life path I think that takes me here, which is called Coward, and basically it means most dwarves hate me.
Mhm.
Oh, buddy. Do we want to just kind of like talk through the steps as we go through them for
Yeah. I'm gonna try and remember the steps.
I have it open on the page. The first one is character concept.
Yeah.
So we can kind of say
does everyone have their concept?
Yes. Ex-criminal Shakespeare. Ex-criminal amateur Shakespeare.
Mm-hmm.
I think is where I'm aiming. Of this person who is kind of trying to become a playwright, an actor, a player within the artistic world, and escape some of his ties to criminal past, but also kind of relying on them for money.
Mm-hmm.
So
cool.
My character is like, disillusioned, like rags to riches story, right? Like made it from being like, really, really poor to being a part of the like noble court, and then was like, wait a second, this is bullshit. So she's so if I take 4, that gets me like really nicely into like she's actually into her career, whereas if I'm just taking 3, then it's her starting out.
Like 4 gets you to like court artist and
4 gives you that chance to kind of make that turn.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm still a little bit unsure because, like I was saying when I was introducing the idea of there being dwarves, different stocks, life paths do not intersect. I cannot have, I cannot be an artist. So a dwarf coming into this world, I guess, is the concept, because I can't have picked up an artistic profession by necessity.
You kind of have to have, and any art skills you have are like general skill points that you've spent.
Yeah. If you're not, unless like you're interested in making jewelry as your art form.
The only things that could potentially be useful are, I think there's like carving or sculpting or something like that we have.
I'm just having a look now. The Born Gilder kind of gives you a few kind of general skill points. You get 4 points for that.
Just what I did for the other parts of my life.
If I'm almost more interested in only taking 3 and using some of my
So once we've done concepts, we jump into picking life paths, which are each like broad ranges of expertise and kind of what we were doing at that part of our lives. They each take an amount of time and they give us some skills and things like that. I have a pretty good map of mine, which I'm going to be city born. Then I was a smuggler. Then I left that life to become a performer. Once I had some training under my belt, I started learning to actually write plays and became a dramaturge.
Mm-hmm.
And those are my life paths.
So how old were you when you got into smuggling?
13. I believe it's the Cityborn. Cityborn is 12 years.
Yeah.
Yep. Then you do the lead to become an outcast.
Mm-hmm.
Which gives me my my extra circles as well, which is quite useful.
Yeah.
And yeah, I then was a smuggler from the ages of 13, I think, to 18. Where is it? This is 4 years as a smuggler. So, and then a lead back out to being a city person as performer.
Yeah.
So, I spent 6 years getting in and out of being a smuggler. From the ages of 12 to 18, which I think is I went to jail for a year. I don't know what the year getting in was, but I think I took the fall for something, or I got caught for something, and then I got out and I was like, I'm not going back to that. I'm gonna do art.
Okay. Yeah.
It's sort of where I'm angling at the moment. I'll kind of nail that down a bit more to go on, but yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on what you were smuggling?
This is kind of why I was interested in we have a port. So I don't know if I was ever I was too young and too inexperienced to ever be the deals person, and a lot of my skills are going to be around being really good at being a distraction and being chatty. But I do have a family member. I think I'm going to have a relationship who's still very much embedded in that world. So. I'm trying to think. I want to say something that that will interweave with the world of art, but isn't artistic in of itself. So
yeah, I mean, we don't have to answer that question.
Yeah,
right
I think
now.
It's luxury goods of some kind,
Yeah.
Alcohol, fancy clothes, or, materials for fancy clothes. That's luxury stuff.
Okay.
Which we would be nabbed off the back of ships coming from other city-states.
Yeah, definitely.
So a performer is 3 years and a dramaturge is 4 years, which makes me 23.
So it's one year when you're switching.
Yeah, a lead is 1 year.
Actually, so it makes me 25 because I should be. Those leads add a year. So I'll just put that in this column so I get the.
Yeah, and so the other bits and pieces that you're looking at in your life paths is the stats that you get from it. So if it's got an M, that's a mental point. If it's got a P, that's a physical point. M/P is one or the other, and then there's something for both as M plus P.
Yeah, there's
you get a point of both.
And there's M/P, which is one or the other. And then you also get resource points.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, how many resources you get. And then...
Not many.
Not many, if any. How many resources roll like this? Sorry.
Is that?
It's...
I enjoyed it. I just didn't
It's from a song.
Okay.
So I'm 24. I started off in the seafaring. I started off seafaring with Son of a Gun, and then became a servant, and then from there became a young lady.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna use that as my. I think I'm gonna go with 3 if that's cool with you, Ashley, because I really want to explore her as a character more in the she's been a young lady for a while, and she's this is the point at where she's actually no, I'm now stifled.
Yeah, so in if I may suggest, so that you're not I know we talked about like balance not being important, but if you wanted to take young lady again,
can you do that?
You
You can no, it can only be taken once. It can only be,
Oh, can only be taken.
has to be second or third, and can only be taken once.
Okay.
But I could take lady, or I could take painter,
Yes.
as long as we're cool with that. So that takes me from being 24 through to like being like early 30s.
Mhm.
Yeah,
like
so
if you definitely want your character to be younger and only going 3 life paths, like I'm happy for you to do that.
I'm happy to like gimp myself in order to
Mhm.
kind of have that be a thing.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I would feel like, because Son of the Gun is the I was born at sea.
Yes,
thing, isn't it?
exactly. Yep.
I am super fascinated as how you went from being born on a ship in a not explicitly noble place to a young lady in like a fancy household.
Yeah.
But like to go from there to lady would then imply you married someone.
Marrying someone, exactly.
Yeah.
Which young lady doesn't necessarily mean. Which
No, exactly. Yeah, I think there's because that's why there's the servant thing in there of like, there's definitely a thing here of like being part of, the connection between like trade and merchant families and noble families and all that sort of thing.
So I have 2 trait points for being a smuggler.
So
Yeah, if I take painter, I end up at 30, but I think that looks at her later in her career.
Mhm.
And I'm more interested in seeing her struggling and being shit to start. Like,
yeah, and this is the thing of like you're trying to break into the art world.
Exactly.
The rest of us the other 2 of us somewhat immersed in it, and that gives you like ways to encounter us.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with 3 and just deal with the consequences.
Mhm. Yeah. One really interesting thing I find with Burning Wheel is you can have like a 4 life path character can get as powerful as a 5 life path character in a much shorter amount of like in-game time, because of the way the advancement rules like work. So like you could, in just like 1 or 2 resource cycles, you could have all of the stat points you would have had by taking painter, but you just have to struggle through it.
Yeah.
Just to fuck up a lot.
Yeah.
Yep. Which I'm very
Interesting.
because like I'm very interested in seeing her be like, very like self-assured and shitty to start with.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I have an idea for what I would like to do, but I figured I would ask everybody if this was okay, because it does necessitate me getting one of those weird dwarven crafts things.
Okay.
Called black. It's a skill called Black Metal Artifice.
Okay.
And I'll read it through for you. But it's on page 260 if you'd like to check as well. It's the skill with which dwarves create all their mundane and household metals. However, the artificers know a secret or 2 and may imbue even their pots and horseshoes with intense quality. Using the obstacles listed below, dwarf can create various toolkits. If you so desire, you may increase the obstacles by +2 orb and grant the final product a special +1d bonus to skill tests which the tools are used. So it's not high magic stuff. It's I've been taught these things, and the reason I picked this up instead of any of the other paths I wanted to take was I really like the idea of becoming this. The life path is a tyro artificer or artificer, however.
Yeah.
But then when I was ready and I should have become an artificer in my own right, I did not swear the oath to keep it a secret and keep it in dwarven society. That's how I'm branded a coward, and that's how I get into the city. So I do have this weird special bit of knowledge, and dwarves kind of hate me because they're like, look, okay, you've got the secrets, now it's time to swear yourself into the service of the clan. And I was just like, I don't want to go.
Yeah, and so that's opposed to white metal artifice, which is like the jewelry,
It
making
doesn't
crowns and armor and.
No, it doesn't set me up to be an artist. It still means all of my artist skills would be general points, but
Yeah, no, I like that.
It's a really interesting fork that sets you apart as like, if you make a sculpture, it's very different from anyone else. Of like, well, I made it out of metal, and then I made it move, and I was like, what?
It isn't even necessarily that.
Yeah. But
people probably come to me because I can do this metalsmithing, and I'm just like, but I just want to make things that are beautiful.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, but you can make these things that are really functional. I'm like, no, my soul is of an artist, not a crafter. And I get to take Coward, which is really cool. And just to spell it out for everybody, it's quite simple. It's Born Artifice, and then you take one called Ardent, which you learn about making fires for like 20 years. And then once you've done that, you're allowed to start making things using the fires. And that's when you take Tyrant Artificer, and then I Coward. It's my fourth.
Nice. Okay. I'm just filling out all my possible skills I can take and all the traits I get.
Yeah, this is the bit where I'm like,
Yeah. So what you need to do, Ash, is so when there's a skill or a trait listed in the life path, you always get the first one. So with Young Lady, you get right.
But you have the potential to learn
the other ones.
Yeah. So the rest of them you get. You can use with your life path skill points instead of your general ones. And the same with traits. So you have to buy the first trait listed if there is a trait. So like Young Lady doesn't have a trait with it. But Servant does. So you so Veneer of Obedience, that is a trait you have to buy.
Yeah. If you record the kind of the number of points each one gives you, like there's the skill gen trait columns.
Yep.
If you record all them in there and then just write down the big long list of all the skills you get from all your different life paths in the skills, and you just put the required tick next to the first one each.
Right. Okay.
So so for instance, for my smuggler, for my performer life path, that gives me 6 skill points, and then I get from that acting, persuasion, sing, falsehood, conspicuous, sleight of hand, and musical instrument. Acting is the one I have to take there, and then I can open all the rest. With the traits, I get 2 points out of it, but I have to take colorful with one of them.
Right.
Cool. Right. I'm going to figure out what the root of all these skills are. Actually, before I do that, I think I'm going to work on my stats.
Yeah. Shall we take a quick break while you fill in your skill lists, and then we talk about what skills you're going to take, and
all
sort of what shape the characters are going to start to take when we get back.
Let's do it.
Cool. We'll see y'all in a few minutes. Bye.